Hello and welcome to another Behind the Box review, and today we're going to be doing a ranking of Series 11. Run the titles. So, as you can see, I'm sat here in the bar at our very special studios here at the Basement Studios, and a bit of a change of scenery because it's a very special time of year. It's Christmas! Now, as you may remember, if you've watched all of our reviews up to this point, you'll know that we've given them a score out of 10. That score is just specifically for this series. There have been lots of people who've said comments like, that episode is not on the same scale as Genesis of the Daleks or Tomb of the Cybermen. Of course it's not. This is a ranking for this particular series, and that helps us put them into position for the rest of the series. I did say some of them might shift, and yes, they kind of have. They've kept the same score, but what I've done is, for example, if some of the episodes have come out as a 7 or an 8, and there may be lots of those, what we've done there is actually give them a 7.2 or a 7.4, just so we can get the ranking in the right order. There are 10 episodes, and we'll be giving you the list very, very shortly. So firstly, an overview of the whole series. First thing to say is they experimented with an awful lot of different things in this series. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. Of course, everybody on the internet has got a different opinion on what worked and what didn't. This is just mine. You can tell me in the comments afterwards what your opinions on this particular series are. I'd love to hear them. So, starting off with, let's talk about how it looked. It looked fantastic. The new cameras that they've been using and the scope and scale of it has been very, very cinematic all the way through. That's been consistent, and it has looked as good as Doctor Who has ever looked on film. The music in the series is very different to what we've had before. New composer, different ideas, different take on things. And what we've noticed in this series is the poignant parts of the music have really stuck out to accent certain parts of the adventure. And then when we've had dramatic moments, it's kind of sort of settled back into the background, so you didn't really notice it. Now, if you think through the series, I can't remember a single melody. Now, some people will think that's a good thing, some people will think that's a bad thing. If you think about Murray Gold's run, there would be little gems in each series that you would actually, after time, remember them. But that's also because he would very often use the same theme, or even sometimes the same piece of music that he'd used before. We've had lots of experimentation of sounds and electronics mixed in with orchestral music. So it's been very, very interesting and a different take on how a score for a series like Doctor Who is done. The writing in this series has been a bit of a roller coaster ride. Some of them have really hit home and been either very dramatic, or the story and plot line has been quite interesting. Some of them have been dull as dishwater. Namely, most of them were Chris Chibnall's. We've also had a lot of writers who've never written sci-fi before. Again, some of them have hit home very well, others have been slightly off the mark in places. And now we come to the executive producer, Chris Chibnall. He's the man who oversees everything in the series. And it's been a bit of a stumbling block in places. Why has that been? Now, if you look back at Russell T Davies's era, some people like Russell T Davies, some people don't. Again, all of these executive producers and directors and writers and everything does tend to split people's opinion. But let's just look at it in context. Russell T Davies, when he came into the show and kind of revitalised it, he'd already got a number of series behind him that he'd been working on. And if you go backwards to sort of 12 months, 18 months before Doctor Who came back, the two that really stand out are a series which was with Christopher Eccleston called The Second Coming. I think it was a two-part mini-series. And then you had the short series that David Tennant did of Casanova. If you look at the style of those and the way they were put together, the scripting, the directing, the acting, everything in there, and then look at the first series of Doctor Who, you can see that Russell T Davies used the same style, the same methods in order to tell that story. So he'd already got that way of working under his belt. Now, if you look at Stephen Moffat came along, again, another executive producer who had written a lot of scripts and a lot of different series for television before that, and he wrote a lot of Doctor Who, some of the best Doctor Who in Russell T Davies' era. So he had seen what he liked about Russell T Davies' work and how he wanted to change that, and brought his own influences in. And he did series like Jekyll before he did Doctor Who, and of course he went on to do Sherlock and other series as well. He's going on to do Dracula, I think, is his next project. But he has a certain style. Where I think Chris Chibnall's problem lies is that Doctor Who is very, very, very far removed from a lot of the stuff that he's done before. Now, he did Torchwood, which was an adult-themed series which came off the back of Doctor Who, but even there they were having teething troubles. Even Russell T Davies struggled with the first series of that when they were trying to get the cogs working and get that series together. Then he went off to do Broadchurch, which is a vastly different sort of series altogether. But a lot of the other things, it almost feels like that he's learning as he goes along. So therefore, that's why I think you've got this roller coaster ride of them trying to desperately find its feet. I'm not going to go through it again, but the exposition has been terrible in this series. Really, really bad. That needs sorting out. If you look at the character of the Doctor, we seem to have had a series where we're not quite sure what take we were supposed to be looking at here. Sometimes was it a kind of David Tennant type of take on it? Was it Matt Smith's type of take on it? I believe that the type of Doctor she's trying to be is this inclusive Doctor. We've had the mystery Doctor before that keeps everything close to the chest and not telling all the characters exactly what's going on. The Seventh Doctor being one of the masters of that, very much like Columbo, would kind of reveal the plan right at the end. This Doctor's more inclusive, so he's taking the TARDIS team and actually not only just taking them through the journey to enjoy the ride, but actually saying, look, this is what it's like being me. Now, I'm going to share some of this with you. So you've had, if you like, the 12th Doctor had Clara, who almost became the Doctor. And I think we have a worry that we don't want that to happen again. Then we had the teacher Doctor, where the 12th Doctor taught Bill and took her under his wing. This one seems to be more like a team effort, and team building skills and all that sort of thing seems to be in this kind of Doctor's makeup. So before we do the ranking, let's just look at the characters for a moment. So we've talked about the Doctor, about how she's getting a handle on that character, and we're all starting to perhaps warm to what type of Doctor that is. But the other characters, Graham has been that character development thread that we talked about with Chris Chibnall. That's the one he's really focused on. He has been on the biggest journey out of all three of them. Ryan is part of his family and part of that dynamic, so therefore he has grown through this story as well. One thing I would like to pick up on is that very early on we talked about Ryan's father, and he was mentioned, and you kind of got the feeling that at some point Ryan's father was going to come into the story. Now maybe that'll be featured in the New Year's episode, but it does seem to be a thread that wasn't picked up. And then we had the mention of the timeless child in episode 2 that hasn't been picked up yet either. So there are a couple of threads of little things left over to be picked up later. Yaz, I feel really sorry for her in this series. She has been left aside in most of it. In the 2 episodes that she could have really shined in the Arachnids in the UK, where it was based around her home and her family, she was sidelined in that one. And then you've got Demons of the Punjab, where although on a kind of religious basis and her history of her family, she has an involvement in that, but really the focus of that story was on the conflict between the other members of her family in history. So she was an onlooker rather than showing how it actually was affecting her or how it would affect her in the future. That wasn't really shown. So the rest of the series showed her taking a back seat in most of this. We know she was a police officer, so some of the investigation elements did come out slightly during the series, but not enough to give her character weight. She didn't seem to have gone on a journey. We don't know why she went in the TARDIS. We don't know why she's there, how she feels about things. We don't know how she's come out at the other end feeling any different to when she went in the first place. So now let's get down to ranking it. So here is our top 10 of the episodes ranked from worst to best of Series 11. Take it away. Number 10, The Tsuranga Conundrum. In at number 9, The Witchfinders. Quite near the bottom, at number 8, The Ghost Monuments. Number 7 in our ranking, Arachnids in the UK. At number 6, the premiere for the Doctor, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. At number 5 is the finale of the series, The Battle of Ranskoor Av Kolos, or whatever it was called. In at number 4, we've got Demons of the Punjab. Heading for the top slots now, here at number 3, we have Kablam. Just short of the top slot, in number 2, It Takes You Away. That means our number 1 for this series is Rosa. So there you have it. If I don't see you before then, have a great Christmas and a great New Year. And we will be reviewing the New Year episode, although it will probably be late because I shall probably be drunk. Okay? So have a great one and we'll see you soon.